Hi everyone! Good evening! Kumusta kayong lahat? Welcome to IC Stories Manila, episode 36, you guys. Grabe, episode 36 na tayo and this is a great one featuring Aviate Labs with Louise Velayo, Node Operations Lead. So alam niyo na yung drill na to, maya-maya we'll get to know more about him and yung mga questions nyo dapat nakaprepare na yan because as you know, pipili po tayo ng best questions at Matic may ICP yan, of course. Hello sa ating usual suspects. Scout Martin, hello. Mass and Dot, hello. Komala, Esther's DICP. Thank you so much for being here, for spending your time here with us. And ayan, maraming salamat din sa ating team replay. Thank you so much everyone tuning in. Ngayon tawagin na natin si Sir Nelson, no? Sir Nelson, how are you? Ano bang bago sa ICP ngayon?
Ay, maraming bago, but I'll focus on ICP Hub Philippines, no? So we'll be launching a hackathon actually with one of the biggest educators community next week. So abangan nyo yan. It will be targeting certain universities within NCR all the way to their big event on March 8th. So we're going to launch it together with them. If you are part of that community, expect to receive details about it. And one of the biggest university then, Ateneo de Manila University, we're targeting to launch by next week. So those are the things na malapit, but after that week, marami pa. Yeah.
Yes, of course. No, it's again a super exciting year, you guys, kasi napakarami natin in plan. Gusto ko lang mag-hi sa friend ko. Hello, Carlos, nandyan siya. And si Ice Team nandito. Natawa ako
Ice
kasi
Team.
kanina, I was saying hi sa mga nanonood natin and then bigla siyang pumasok. So, hello,
Interesado
thank you so much.
mag-node provider sa Ice Team.
Oo. Totoo. Alam mo naman yan, basta may opportunities ay automatic nandyan
Ice
siya,
Team.
no? So,
Yeah.
ayan. Hi, Nana-chan! OG, hello, kumusta? Ayan, pinapagalaw na nila yung baso. So, ang guest natin today, huwag natin pahabain pa, ang guest natin today, Filipino siya actually, pero sa ibang bansa na lumaki. Pero hindi natin siya mabebenta kasi marunong naman siya mag-Tagalog.
Yes.
May konting Tagalog, papakitaan daw niya tayo maya-maya. Alright,
Pwede
so
kayo
ayan, you
magtanong ng
can...
Tagalog.
Yes, so you can ask any questions relating sa Nose or Aviate Labs, no? So ihanda niyo na ang mga yan dahil napaka-open sa questions po ng guest natin. So without further ado, huwag natin pahabain pal. Please help me welcome Mr. Louise Velayo, Node Operations Lead of Aviate Labs. Hi,
Hello,
Louise. How are
hello.
you?
Hi.
Louise.
Hello, ICP Hub.
How are you? I
Philippines.
like the background.
I'm good. Thank you very much. Yeah. So, this background is actually at one of our data centers right now, where we're having the IC nodes because I have some tasks to do. So it's really fitting and good timing for this call that I can be here on site and with you all today.
What time is it there,
sure.
and how's the weather there?
Right now in Belgium it is noon, and I'm not sure if you can see from the weather, but it's very, very typical Belgian weather. It's rainy, gloomy this time of year. During the winter months, you see the sun sometimes, and it's really lucky if you do. But most of the time, it's like this. So you're getting the true Belgian experience right now.
Yeah.
Oh, but when you go back to the Philippines this year, you're gonna be so sick of the sun. So
Yeah, it's
No,
hot.
you-
really hot
enjoy
there.
that for now, for sure.
No,
Yeah.
oh,
So,
no, definitely.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So help us get to know you more. Tell us your story. How'd you get into
Okay.
all of this? How'd you fall into the rabbit hole?
All right. So actually, it's maybe different to other people. It was I kind of slowly fell into it in a way, and almost unintentionally. It all started at university. I was looking for some kind of part-time or student internship, and one of the ways I went about that, I asked one of my upperclassmen, do you know anybody that's hiring students at this time? And she actually put me in contact with Roald, who is the founder of Aviate Labs, and my colleague. And I remember we met at a coffee shop, and there we just had a talk about, what my skills are. And he kind of gave me some options. He said, I can recommend you to some startups that I know, or you can help me manage these nodes and potentially build some kind of business around it. But I have no idea what the roadmap is for that. You're just going to have to trust me. And me being a bit, let's say risk taking, I was
Risk
like,
taker. Yeah.
that sounds like an interesting option. So choosing that path led me here today. So that's kind of how it all happened. So yeah, it started as a student, really, and
Wow.
now
How
here with
many
you guys.
years ago was this?
This
Age
was
reveal. No,
in
I'm kidding.
this was in this was in 2021. So yeah, I mean, happy to
Wow.
I just graduated from uni last summer.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm 22 and doing this stuff. So it's still, yeah, I feel like I still have a lot to learn, but at the same time, I feel like I've been in the IC for quite a while around these nodes. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's a mixed feeling.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Fortune.
Even in this industry, a couple
Yeah.
of months already feels
Yeah.
like a
Yeah,
few years, you know.
definitely,
So
definitely. When I'm
you
at like
being
some
there.
conferences, yeah, when I'm at some conferences and some people say they've been in the industry for 3 years, that's basically an eternity in blockchain
Oh yeah,
industry.
for
So it's
sure.
always really funny to hear.
Exactly.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
that's really how it feels. Like it's not an
yeah.
Yeah.
exaggeration at all. Because
Hmm.
everything's
It's
just ever
moving
changing,
fast.
right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm. So now walk us through what exactly is Aviate Labs. What is it? What do you
Hmm.
guys do?
So Aviate Labs, maybe I think this might be a good opportunity if I can share my screen.
Yes, please
Yes.
go
To
ahead.
go through it. That this way it's more of a story style. Let's see.
Ice Team
Can
commented, if 3 years is an eternity, then how about 10 years? Are those
wow
people
then
like artifacts already? I mean, yeah, I guess.
then
Good
you
point.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Um,
Dinosaurs for sure.
basically, you guys are the OGs as they would call it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But is my screen sharing okay?
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
You can see it.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So yeah, I'll basically take you through the story of a node provider, but this kind of gives the story of Aviate Labs. And it's all started with onboarding the node provider Illusion. So just to be
Okay.
clear, the node provider entity in Belgium is Illusion, not Aviate Labs, and this is the name
Okay.
that you see
Mm.
on the public IC dashboard. Aviate Labs is kind of spinning out of Illusion in the way, and you could see it as the division that is really focused on the IC and yeah, specifically the nodes,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and other potential projects, but we'll dive into that later. Um, and the reason this kind of division is spinning out of Illusion is because at the very start, Illusion being a Gen 1 node provider, uh, as you see on the dashboard, we run about 70 nodes for the IC. And in
Okay.
Belgium, that's spread across 3 different data centers in Antwerp, Brussels, and Leuven. So you can imagine this needs some kind of organization. It's not completely full-time, but you need somebody that is on top of things to make sure if there's ever any issues or anything that Dfinity requests us to do, that somebody can take point in that and executing it on time. So maybe that's one
Yeah.
big part of Aviate Labs, and it will continue to be as long as we stay in the space, is
Mhm.
providing this service to Illusion, kind of managing their nodes, whatever updates there are in the network to make sure that
Mhm.
our nodes are up to date with them, as well as if there's any issues, hardware issues, networking issues, we're the first line to correct that, let's say. So that's one of the main, let's say, activities of Aviate Labs.
Mhm.
Um,
So,
yeah,
sorry,
go
before
ahead.
we go any further, what exactly are nodes?
Nodes. So as you are all aware, there's the Internet Computer ICP, but this
Mhm.
is simply, well, not simply, but that is the protocol. Eventually, this
Mhm.
protocol needs to be running on servers, on actual hardware, much like
Yeah.
how the internet works today. You know, actually most of your media and everything, that all goes back or is traced back to some data center somewhere in the world.
Mhm.
In the Web 2 world, this is you know, it's typically people saying that it's all in AWS or all in Google's data
Yeah.
centers. The difference with IC is that where your data is being stored, where the compute is happening, is
Mhm.
in these nodes. And these nodes,
Mhm.
so like us, we run 70, but there are, I think the last time I checked, 1,300 in the network. And
Yeah.
this is all
Globally.
spread throughout the world, exactly,
Oh.
globally, and
Uh-huh.
owned by individual entities. So Illusion is the one in
Mhm.
Belgium, but I know there's multiple in the States, there's some in South Africa. I know there's a
Mhm.
node provider in Singapore. So you
Oh.
could think of it as, this is actually the way I like to see the IC, and Dfinity, I think, coined the term decentralized cloud. This is the
Mhm.
a nicer way
Yeah.
to look at
Exactly.
IC and ICP rather than just, let's say, another blockchain. I think this is the vision, and at least this nicely encapsulates what the
Yeah.
IC really is. Yeah.
Wow, you
Exactly.
explained
Yeah.
that so well.
Yep.
Because I
Yep.
feel like most of our viewers are, beginners or intermediate in the space, and I feel like these
Yeah.
are things that we should be aware of, especially when we're expanding our knowledge. So yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, definitely. Like just to add on to that, it's understandable because in the web we're now in today, you kind of,
Mm-hmm.
it's almost abstracted for you. You don't need to think about where things are actually running.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, you know, that's part of why it's kind of hard to sell this decentralized vision, because people don't see that actually all their data is clustered in this one
Yeah.
cloud provider or another, or just in the hands of a few. And so yeah, actually part of this transition to Web3 actually brings transparency through the whole stack of one, the
Mm-hmm.
application layer, and so all the way down to the infrastructure layer of where your
Yeah.
applications are running. So I think that's one of the nice things coming out of this transition, or this mission that is coming from Dfinity.
That's a good
Eh,
perspective. Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
this
Yeah,
also opens up a lot of opportunities for people like you as a student, you not
exactly.
from not knowing what it is to doing
Mhm.
it
Hmm.
full time now and having
Exactly.
this, great opportunity. And we hope our viewers would also have that kind of opportunity. Maybe not specifically for nodes, but in the
Yeah.
interviews that we
Hmm.
conduct.
I
Yeah,
think I just want to
exactly.
add that this is one thing that what makes ICP unique versus other blockchain, wherein basically stored on Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure.
Hmm.
Their front
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
end is stored there. It's really not
Mm-hmm.
fully decentralized, and
Yeah.
the main ethos of let's say our current industry right now, which is Web3, really is full decentralization. So it really needs to be 100% on chain, and Louise just basically explained it on the benefit or the unique value proposition for ICP, and every
Mm-hmm.
project should take note of that because. Of course, most projects just want to ride the popularity of a chain,
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
just hosting their front end and
Yeah.
most of their NFTs on centralized servers. And what happens
Yeah.
basically is just a few backend stuff happens mostly on their tokens
Yeah.
on the chain. So it doesn't make sense, to be honest. So ICP has
Exactly.
this unique value proposition that basically Luis just laid it out right now.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah.
adding on to that, it's like with NFTs, a typical, you know, story is that it's simply the hash that is on the ledger that is
Yeah,
on chain,
exactly.
but the
Mm-hmm.
actual asset, the actual JPEG file is in a AWS data center. And okay, it's convenient, but is that
Yeah,
really decentralized? Compare that to the
exactly.
IC, everything from all your assets to the application code, that is all running on this infrastructure owned by different entities across the world. So
Yeah.
that's really the infrastructure side, though it's sometimes not the sexiest, I would say. it is one of the unique value propositions of the IC.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Okay,
Yeah. Go ahead.
Louise.
Sorry, we had so
Yeah, sure.
many
Cut you.
tangents.
No
Yeah.
worries.
Yeah.
No worries. I have a lot of time, so it's perfect.
Okay.
Good.
It's
Good.
perfectly
Great.
Oh
fine to
yeah,
get
the
sidetracked.
5 hour live stream.
5 hour live stream.
Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, here you guys can see a picture of the when we received the equipment. And actually, a really funny story about this was that um, this was still during COVID, and
Mhm.
again, it's not very common that there's people just I say regular people, but people not working, let's say, in telco and data center industries to be making these kinds of orders, let's say.
Mhm.
And the funny thing was, I can't remember exactly if there was no track and trace number or it was just not entirely accurate. But my colleague, Roald, he received a call saying, okay, they arrived in Schiphol Airport, so in Amsterdam. And then a couple weeks or months later, he then receives a call out of the blue, hearing that from the data center, actually, and actually it might be this one. I can't remember exactly, but it might be this one, calling him saying, um, "You have like 3 pallets of servers that arrived on site. You have 48 hours to remove them." And with like there was no preparation whatsoever. And I remember the story goes, he just kind of contacted friends, people that he knew, and they just all went and tried to move it as quick as possible to our rack in the data hall. And so
Aren't these
yeah, it's just
heavy?
these are really heavy. So you can't just you
Oh
really need the
man.
forklift, or you have to
Yeah.
separate each box to the point where you can carry it. But these servers are really heavy. And so it was yeah, kind of a nightmare in a way, just because they
Yeah.
couldn't plan and you just had to suddenly move everything to the data hall. So I find it as one of the funnier stories of kind of the whole setup phase, because it's like,
Yeah.
you make such a big investment in a way, and then
Yeah.
when it comes to like setting it up, it was like, oh, we couldn't plan for this, and
Oh,
just
it was
let's
crazy.
go.
Yeah.
It was just crazy. So it's a nice story I like to share.
I mean,
But
for sure it was a nightmare during that time, but now it's a good
yeah,
story to tell. And who
exactly.
Yeah.
needs forklifts when you have family and friends, right? You get to
Exactly,
test your
exactly.
relationship with them.
Yes. So
And
the nodes
it's
were
a
set
good
up with
point.
love, as you could say.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
good point, Louise. Yeah, it takes effort to be a node provider. You just pointed it out. The
Yeah.
physical part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point on that. Yeah.
I mean, a caveat is that this is the unique thing about Illusion Aviate Labs as node
Mhm.
providers, is that we take a really hands-on approach. But there's other node
Mm.
providers that take a kind of investment approach to it, and then contract the necessary parties to handle that. So, for
Yeah, I
instance,
agree.
this rack and stack part. So we actually did have a technical partner to guide us through it, but Roald
Mhm.
and a few others were actually there to help put these servers in place. Here on the left, you see the server, what's inside an IC node.
Hmm.
And in the middle and on the right, you see the nodes already racked and stacked without any
Yeah.
cabling yet. And so there was parties to help us do this. We, it's not that we learned this all on our own and then did it.
Mhm.
But other node providers really contract other services to handle everything, so that they would never have to touch a thing in the data center.
Agree. Yeah.
Both options are completely valid. I think we just find, one, we have the people that want to know more how to run these nodes and have a hands-on approach. But
Hmm.
two, when you realize then kind of what the tasks you need to do are, let's say it takes some time and efforts, but if you have it, it's worth it, just because the price
Yeah.
you would pay contracting these services, it's quite a lot, let's say. But if
Yeah.
you're the
Yeah.
type of person that's willing to do that, then by all means,
Why
how you
not?
run
Yeah.
your nodes,
I agree.
how you
Yeah.
run
Yeah.
your nodes is completely up to you.
Yeah.
um, but then moving on is that this is now a picture that you see the cabling's already in, and this was when the
Mhm.
network went live, as you can tell from the date. That was around the Genesis event, and we
Hmm.
saw
Mhm.
our nodes pop up live on the Internet Computer dashboard. So that
Yeah.
was a
Mhm.
super rewarding experience. And yeah, is that the end? Well, no, your nodes are up, but now it's about keeping them up. And that's kind of what the role that Aviate Labs now plays.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say one of the main roles is that, you know, as a node provider, it's never that you fix everything completely on your own. You never open up a server and like try and fix
Yeah.
everything and or
Yeah.
do everything yourself. It always involves, you know, multiple people from the client side. So more often than not, it's Dfinity, as they're the ones taking
Mm-hmm.
care of the protocol. But then on the kind
Mm-hmm.
of operation side, with the data center, with the ISP, with our hardware provider, your role as a node provider is to kind of first diagnose, is it a network issue? Is it a hardware issue? And when you know
Mm-hmm.
this, contacting the right parties to do the right steps to,
To
let's
address,
say,
yeah.
solve
Yeah.
the issue. Exactly. And it's
Uh-huh.
never that
Mm-hmm.
you know, we've now had some issues that have occurred multiple times, so we're able to establish a kind of best practice. But when a new
Mm-hmm.
issue pops up, you're kind of just as clueless, and it's about being able to be adaptable, listening and
Mm-hmm.
communicating, putting the right people in contact so that you're then able to solve the issue. So it's never that
Mm-hmm.
there's kind of a formula to being a node provider, as long as you're adaptable and willing to
Mm-hmm.
learn and play an active part in solving the issue, then
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you could be that hands-on node provider. But like I said,
Mm-hmm.
there's other node providers in the network that, for them, the Aviate Labs is some other technical party. I believe they're called
Mm-hmm.
remote hand services, or SI
Mm-hmm.
teams. These are
Mm-hmm.
contracted to just take care of everything. The
Yeah.
difference is that they don't have transparency into what that entails, whereas Aviate Labs and Illusion is almost one, and we are able to provide feedback on how everything is done. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that gives it was quite a long explanation, but that is
Yeah.
Aviate
A
Labs.
very, I think it's
Yeah.
a comprehensive look
Yeah.
at it, but
Yeah,
also in a very
yeah,
digestible
You,
manner.
you
Well,
provide the
mm,
yeah. Just one quick you provide a very detailed answer on that. Can we
yeah.
just go back on the slide a little bit if that's okay?
Sure. Let me
Uh,
share that again. Oh, 1 second. Oh, and
Actually, my
here we go.
question is, since you mentioned a lot of struggles and challenges, and you act like a
Yeah.
support for others, something like that. But you also depend on. I think the first question is, why is it Dell on in terms of hardware,
So
or is it
specifically,
just an
spe-
example?
no, specifically Dell, because for the Gen 1 node providers, this was the first spec provided by
Okay.
Dfinity. I think when Dfinity was
Ah.
also testing the builds for the IC nodes, they were
Mhm.
also using Dell. So for the other Gen 1 node providers, it was kind of just copy and paste, have these Dell nodes. But
Mhm.
as you will see, and I'm more than happy to provide all these links afterwards to you guys to share to the
Yeah.
community,
oh,
like all
that's
the necessary
cool.
links. There's actually
Yeah.
validated hardware configurations. So one, there's a general spec, which if you're very hardware savvy, feel free to try and build a node that
Build.
matches
Yeah.
this spec. Try to onboard, try to deploy the ICOS on it, and if it works, let
Mhm.
Dfinity know, and they're more than happy to add it to the community configuration. But
Mhm.
currently, Dfinity has 4 validated configurations, Dell
Mm-hmm.
being
Okay.
one of them, the other one from Asus, Gigabyte, and Supermicro, if I remember that correctly.
That's
But
great.
there's more diversification in hardware for the Gen 2 nodes, let's say. For the Gen 1 nodes, all Gen 1 nodes are Dell, as far as I
Ardell.
know.
Okay. Got
Yeah,
it. Good.
Okay.
yeah,
Which is good because here Asus, Gigabyte, and the other one are all available. I'm not sure
yeah,
about Dell,
yeah.
which is good also because that's only for the Gen 1. And then
Hmm,
you
hmm.
mentioned in terms of the struggles and challenges, can you give an example or elaborate on what you encountered along the way?
Yeah, I think, I mean, there's two sides of it. There's the
Mhm.
kind of operational challenges and also the roadmap challenges. Let's say on the operations side, it's what's it called? Whenever there's a new issue, um, it's hard to know what to do. And the
Yeah.
first kind of step is, and sometimes it's the longest, is you come on the sites and figuring out what actually the problem is, because working with hardware, it's you know, it's not like when you're in an application and it can tell you instantly what the error
Mm-hmm.
is. um, you try multiple steps, and then eventually you then find what the issue is, but it's like you see a lot of lines
A lot
on
of
the
Yeah.
trial and
logs,
error,
and
yeah.
it's a lot like this. But
Uh-huh.
I think that's one of the that's largely in part due to the maturity of the ecosystem, just because
Mhm.
it's still young, so every problem is almost a new problem. But as
Yeah.
I'm seeing
Mhm.
now, and it's starting to develop, there's a section in the Internet Computer Wiki dedicated to troubleshooting, and there
Okay.
people are
Yeah.
constantly adding problems they faced. And more I see that as people become more hands-on with their nodes and troubleshoot themselves, they're able to provide this feedback. And when you look back
Yeah.
at this wiki, then you see somebody that had this problem, and
Yeah.
then
I
you
agree.
know directly what to do. And it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
never it's never that the issue is so impossibly hard to solve. It's just
I
more that you
agree.
don't know what it is in the first place.
Mhm.
But once you know what it is, the steps to fix it are immediately clear.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I think one of our biggest ones, I think there was an issue that one of our nodes was offline for almost a month because
Wow. That's
it
long.
was so hard for us to kind of detect the issue, because on the network side it
Mhm.
was fine. um,
Mhm.
and one, like, our machine just wasn't booting up, so you couldn't see
Mhm.
any logs at all. And it
Yeah.
turned out that the motherboard of the entire machine had to be replaced. Now, luckily,
Oh, okay.
our
Oh.
nodes are, yeah, luckily they're covered by warranty, so that it's
Mhm.
Yeah.
not a big issue. But then when the
Mhm.
motherboard was replaced, then we realized also some of the drives were also broken, so those had to
Yeah.
be
Mhm.
replaced too. And all of that, and again, that's a big challenge because it's communication between me and Dell, and this happens
Mhm.
asynchronously. It took a lot of time,
Mhm.
but eventually the node came back online, so it was all good. It was just
Yeah.
some parts had to be replaced. But that's, let's say,
Yeah.
as far as I've been running the nodes, that was the biggest issue we've faced. Yeah.
That sounds
Yeah.
incredibly challenging. Yeah, I feel like it's especially when it's hard to pinpoint the problem because how can you solve it if you don't know what the
Mhm.
problem is, right?
Yeah.
So now
Yeah,
let's talk about your milestones. So
sure.
obviously you were able to lay out some of the challenges that you're facing. Um,
Hmm.
Now, what milestones are you particularly proud of?
Hmm. So from the node side of things, I have two. One is the first time I was trusted to do an intervention myself. So when I was
Mm,
onboarded as a student, I would go always with Roald, and
mm,
he'd
Mhm.
give me a lay of the land, tell me what everything is. Because yeah, you can imagine, even though I was a engineering background, I had never stepped foot in a data center. And you see all these servers
Okay.
humming and the heats
Yeah.
and the fans, and it's like, whoa, this
yeah.
is a bit
Yeah.
overwhelming. But the
Uh-huh.
first time I was trusted to do that completely by myself, that's one milestone. The
Mm,
other is actually this motherboard replacement that I told you about. It was a complex issue, and at the time, I think Roald was in the States, so it was really up to me
Mhm.
to push things
take
along,
care of it.
and just
Yeah.
exactly, and just seeing that the node came back online for me, that was a big milestone.
Mhm.
Those are, let's say, my personal milestones. But from Aviate Labs, let's say, um, I keep mentioning that providing the service for Illusion is one side. On the other, we are trying to, again, still focus on node providers, but providing support, providing tooling, or
Yeah.
just kind of
Mm,
any project to help them improve their experience managing their nodes. And one of the first projects that I kind of took on when I joined full time was our node monitor.
Mhm.
It's our internal notification service that we use to let us know when our
Oh,
nodes go
that's
down.
nice.
Because
Yeah.
normally Dfinity would contact you if they have the time, but
Mhm.
as you can imagine, and that's what they did when it was just the Gen 1 node providers, because it was manageable. But now there's more and more node providers. It's kind of hard
yeah.
to just ping somebody as soon as their node goes down. So
Mhm.
we built an
Mhm.
internal notification service for ourselves that lets us know when our nodes go down, on Slack, Telegram, and email. And a big
Yeah.
part of
Mhm.
my first project was um, open sourcing that and making it
Mhm.
possible
Oh,
that
nice.
one, it's open source, and two, that people can just easily sign on and receive that notification service. And when that was live and seeing the first users actually sign up and use it, that was a
Mhm.
big milestone, I think, for not just for me, but also for Aviate
Yeah.
Labs, because it's
Aviate
a bit
Labs,
of a
for sure.
validation that's
Yeah.
even though it's still niche, there's probably
Yeah.
119 node providers. There's people that it sees that they need it, and that's
Yeah.
kind
Mm-hmm.
of like what's ahead for Aviate Labs as well. Really focusing on this tool, kind of expanding its capabilities to
Mhm.
encompass most of node providers, regular
Mm-hmm.
tasks, and so on. It's still
Mhm.
to be seen what way we go with it, but this is really our focus for this year, and kind of yeah, what our specialty is. Just being node providers, it makes sense that we should build tools for node providers too.
Agree.
Yeah.
Agree.
Yeah.
That makes sense, and it sounds like a very exciting year ahead of you guys. So here's actually a question from the community. Usually we get questions after the AMA proper, but I feel like this is relevant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Since we were talking about some common challenges, let's reframe the question from um, Chari Maya 70. Let's focus on the strategy part of the question. So, what are some strategies that you guys employ to optimize node performance and ensure uh, the reliability in your operations?
hmm So I think for us, maybe this is a good time to show the rest of that slides.
Yeah,
Maybe
go
I'll
Yes,
ahead.
go ahead.
share
Go ahead.
uh, because it gives a good idea of how we kind of do our operations, let's say.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
But I just give me some time to find it. So this is kind of how we manage our nodes. It's kind of these three pillars.
Mm-hmm.
One, a data center standby team, having dedicated people for now. In our team, that's two people, me and Roald, that are familiar with the IC nodes and are ready to go when there's some issue. The
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
next pillar is, staying in tune with your nodes. So that's our node
Mm-hmm.
monitor. It tells us as soon as a node goes down, and every day
Yeah.
actually we get a status report of, okay, this amount of nodes are up, this amount of nodes are unassigned, this amount of
Mhm.
nodes are down. So just constantly being aware of like the status of your nodes, I think that's a big thing. And the last thing is our infrastructure tracker. So for us, it's especially useful because we have
Mhm.
70 of these servers. Keeping a track of their serial number, their IP addresses, passwords for uh, like logging into them remotely, and everything like this. So these would be the three pillars that's uh, kind of encompass our node management and would say is our strategy. Um, in terms of a specific flow when it comes to a certain intervention or problem, as I mentioned, it's always
Mhm.
different. At least now, for now, because it's the network is live for what's 3 years now, coming to
Yeah.
4. So there's still each issue that pops up, it's still new, and you don't
Mhm.
have something so well documented. But I think that's another one of our what's it called? Another one of our strategies is, as part of the infrastructure tracker,
Mhm.
every intervention, every little thing that happens to our nodes, we document it and make sure it's
Mhm.
organized and easily referenced. That way, when we look back, one, we know the history of what has happened to a specific node. Um,
Mhm.
and two, it's just if we encounter a similar problem, we can search up in our internal kind of logs. And yeah, if we ever do have new people that join our team, we
Mhm.
have a whole history of stuff to share with them, like this is how we did it this time, and so
Yeah.
on. And I guess, looking at it now, all of this that you see, that's kind of what we want to build as a product for node providers. Let's say
Mhm.
that's when I mentioned that we want to build tooling applications that enable node providers. It's all of these things that we kind of want to offer in
Yeah.
a scalable way, because me and Roald, there's only us two. We can't manage
Yeah.
nodes
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
everybody, but building a
Mm-hmm.
kind of product to enable node providers to do all of this, that's the vision, at least for Aviate Labs, this year and beyond.
Yeah. Luis, you mentioned you currently are a small team right now. How many are you in the team right now?
So concretely, our team is two people. And if
Okay.
we have some developer, all three people, but if we have some developer work, then we have contacts to kind of reach out, and it's more on a
Oh,
contractor
yeah.
basis. Let's say
Mhm.
it's the same if we have some kind of event that needs to be handled. We would
Mhm.
go out and have more work on it more as a contractor basis. But as you imagine, the nodes, they're always running. You need somebody there.
Yeah.
That's why
Yeah.
me and Roald are the full time, let's say, of Aviate Labs. But we
Mhm.
Mhm.
also have a bit of yeah, because of our knowledge with the nodes, it also puts us in a position to build these tools that we
This
mentioned. And
tooling, yeah.
for the most part, we try to do that ourselves. But when it becomes, let's say, more complex, or we need better expertise on it, that's when we look
Mhm.
to our partners, or like our kind of trusted devs, let's say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. What's the plan for Aviate Labs? What are we looking at in the next 2 years? It's really going to be focused on ICP, of course, definitely. And
Mhm.
Mhm.
do you have plans of growing, branching out, or servicing others?
I think, I mean, that's really all to be seen. And in terms of servicing others, I know the network is putting in steps to make it easier for node providers to manage their nodes remotely, and that's interesting
Mhm.
for
Mhm.
us because then we can also say to others, hey, we'd be interested to help you manage your nodes so that you don't have to do it. Like for instance, the node providers
Mhm.
that currently contract remote hands or SI teams, we'd be very interested to offer our services to them because we know that the price they pay for that service is probably a lot compared to what it
Yeah.
actually needs to be done. But
Yeah.
at the same time, we have a bit of hesitation just because if you have this remote access to these nodes, it can be seen as you also have control over it. Then it becomes
Yeah.
a whole,
Mm.
you know,
Good point.
talking about decentralization
Yeah.
optics.
Yeah.
There's this
Yeah.
one, service provider. Okay, they're just providing a service, but they also have direct access to all your nodes. On a bad
Yeah.
day, you just switch off everybody's, so it's trying to
Exactly.
find this balance, and this is always the across blockchain. It's not just ICP, but this
Mhm.
decentralization and scalability
Mhm.
kind of balance that you need to strike.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
we're trying to find ways, let's say, and it's something we're definitely interested in. But it's more trying to make it valid from a decentralization point of view.
Mhm.
What we will do, or for the next 2 years, is like I said, this tooling. Um,
Yeah.
so building a full, let's say, management portal where on the one side you have these notifications, on the other you have your own infrastructure tracker
Yeah.
where you can one just track the important details of your servers.
That'll make
Uh,
everything so much easier.
exactly, make it really
Mhm.
streamlined. Two,
Mhm.
easily
Yeah.
add important documentation every time there's an intervention on a specific node.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's also plans to add kind of not financing support, but like financial aspect to it. So, like I said,
Mhm.
in most places for node providers, they get their rewards in ICP,
Yeah.
and some people need to account to use like share that with their accountant, provide reporting,
Mhm.
and so on. So yeah, trying to build an application that can encompass all of this. That
Yeah.
would be, I think that would warrant 2 years of work. I think,
Agree.
but
Agree.
we'll
Oh
see.
Agree.
yeah. Easily. Yeah,
Ideally,
2 years.
ideally we
Uh-huh.
could, ideally we could go fast with it, but let's say
Yeah.
that's the product side. And yeah, naturally we want to make ourselves more known to the network as kind of another resource next to Dfinity to talk
Mhm.
about your nodes. So if you're a
Yeah.
curious node provider that just
Good point. Yeah.
doesn't want to go through the whole wiki, because I've been through that many
Exactly.
times,
Yeah.
everything's there, but it's
It's
just
But it's
it's
hard,
a
a
lot.
it's
lot.
hard to digest. Yeah,
Oh
it's a
yeah,
lot.
Yeah.
for sure.
So
Now
for
that we're
interested node
oh yeah, go
providers,
ahead. Mhm.
yeah, I was just saying, for interested node providers, if they're want to just hop on a 15-20 minute call just to get like a
Yeah.
quick rundown, I'm always open for that, and especially for the ones in the Philippines, of course.
Oh, that's cool.
Agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet some of our viewers would love to take you up on that offer, and that's so kind of you
Definitely.
to offer that. Knowing how busy and demanding your job there is, so thank you for
Yeah.
that. So while we're on the topic of roadmap, your short and long term goals with Aviate Labs. Um, can you share your thoughts on what do you think about the future evolution of ICP and
Hmm.
the implications of that for Aviate Labs operations?
Hmm. Okay, that's a really good question, actually, and I think as far as what my expertise lies in, I want to kind of limit the scope at least to the node side. So
Mm-hmm.
if we take this back to the starts, where as Dfinity says, and as the IC is, it's decentralized cloud more than just blockchain.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if we compare that, we want to build a world computer. That's what the IC is. It's a very
Mm-hmm.
common vision that we have here at Aviate Labs, and I think other node providers as well, is that you want to build a decentralized cloud that serves the entire world. Well, then our nodes
Mm-hmm.
will need to reach the size of operations as an AWS, as a Google, as
Yeah.
Azure. And the last time I checked, there's no official number on it, or there's no one source
Mm-hmm.
that I could find, but AWS's nodes ranged from hundreds of thousands to millions of
Wow.
servers.
Yeah.
Comparing that to the
That's
IC,
crazy.
IC
Yeah.
is currently at 1,300, almost a thousand
Yeah.
four hundred
Mm-hmm.
nodes.
Yeah.
So we need to go from that to that, but now
Mm-hmm.
also in a decentralized way. So in terms of implication for node providers, one, the network wants node providers to, let's say, have a limited number of nodes for
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
decentralization purposes. So
Mm-hmm.
seeing another
Yeah.
illusion come up with 70 nodes is not, that's not what's going to be the
Yeah.
roadmap for sure. But so
Yeah.
naturally you'll see the need for more and more of these node providers. And if we're all accomplishing the same task, there needs to be a way that we can find a way to streamline things from onboarding to management.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there's a large space there for Aviate Labs to jump in and help kind of boost that, kickstart that, or just
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
provide some guidance in that. But to make a long story short, if the future of IC is that it really becomes the world computer, then you need node providers at the scale of AWS, and
Yeah. I agree.
naturally
We're
that's
getting there.
a lot
Yeah.
of node
That's a lot. That's a
providers.
lot. That's huge.
Yeah.
It's really a lot. So in terms of
Mm-hmm.
business, I mean, if we can figure out a model to help, somebody just say,
Mm-hmm.
I want to spin up this amount of nodes, and kind of we can handle the onboarding and everything like that for them
Mm-hmm.
and do
Mm-hmm.
their management in a decentralized way, then that's kind of an interesting business for Aviate Labs, or that's
Mm-hmm.
one of the things we want to try and do as the IC grows.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, Luis, before we go to the community questions, we do have a lot of questions.
Hmm.
I think one of the question there is about economic, I do not know. But basically, can you lay out to us, if I'm an entrepreneur, I want to
Hmm.
deploy or spin out some node, be a node provider here in the Philippines, be the first one.
Yeah, yeah.
What will be the first step? How much will
Hmm.
be the capital that I need to prepare? What's the
Hmm.
timeline that we're looking at? And
Hmm.
just a overview idea on how does it go?
Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
So the first part of that question is the steps, right? And
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
I think a good first step, and it's well, yeah, the first step is learn about the IC and what a node provider is. But I
Yeah,
assume
yeah, that's
from
okay.
after
Yeah.
this call, you guys can skip that step. No, I'm
Uh-huh.
joking. But first, really understand what the IC is.
Mm-hmm.
Believe in it. That's the first thing, because
That's
being a node
crucial.
provider, yeah, it's
Yeah.
not just an investment you take lightly. It's even if you take a
Exactly.
hands-off approach, it's a big investment. So believe in the
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
technology. That's definitely
Mhm.
the first step. But practically, let's say the practical first step is to look around the Philippines or maybe other places in Southeast Asia, mainly
Mm-hmm.
asking for quotes from data centers and ISPs, because
Mhm.
you need to know where you're going to set up. I think that's really important, and maybe it's not
Yeah.
so clear on the wiki. If you can get to a point where with this data center and ISP, you're already at like a tentative contract where it's kind of just sign and we go.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good place to be,
Okay.
and it will also give you a good idea of your OPEX. And that's the same with your
Mhm.
hardware.
Yeah.
Understand kind of how many nodes you're willing to run. I know
Mhm.
that Dfinity sets a cap at it's either 28 or 42. I need to look
Mhm.
again specifically at the wiki,
Mhm.
but there is a hard cap at it right now.
Mhm.
But how many nodes
Mhm.
you're willing to run? And again,
Yeah.
ask Dell, ask Asus, ask Gigabyte, and
Mhm.
Supermicro. Quotes, maybe there's a local partner in the Philippines that you can get your hardware directly, or you have
Mhm.
to import it from the nearest, let's say, distribution
Yeah.
headquarters of these hardware providers. So that would be the practical first steps is looking for this and kind of already coming to a secure contract that if everything is a
Mhm.
go, then you just
Mhm.
go. As far as timeline, the biggest timeline before, let's say, was just the hardware.
Yeah.
Depending on where you get your hardware from, that could be up to 6 months to get your servers at the
Mhm.
data center.
Yeah.
And for us, this was during COVID, and it was around 6 months or a bit longer. But
Mhm.
Mhm.
right now, as the network is, and I'm not sure how involved the listeners are with the forum discussions. I know there's many different forum discussions.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
But the IC has reached what's called a target topology, meaning that
Mm.
there is already a surplus of nodes for the IC to one run at
Yeah.
its capacity with also backup nodes as well, and two,
Mhm.
it is sufficiently decentralized already
Yeah.
um, at the current moment.
Yeah. Right
Now,
now.
when it opens up, that's hard to say. I've been
Yeah.
working at the foundation, with the foundation the past month, and I will be back there in Zurich next week, again, working closely
Mhm.
with people there. But when I've
Mhm.
talked, it really goes anywhere from maybe in the summer we see some movement to maybe it's in a
Yeah.
year or
Yeah.
more. So it's a question more of when the IC will see this adoption, and
Yeah.
therefore we see more nodes being used, and therefore
Mhm.
we now need more
We need
nodes.
more.
So
Yeah.
while
Yeah.
there is this like temporary pause, it's really more a speed bump rather than a roadblock, as I like
Yeah.
to
Mhm.
say. And so, like those first steps that I said, already kind of, let's say, understanding the OpEx and the CapEx, getting those contracts secured, already canvassing where you'll set
Mhm.
up your nodes. In a sense, it's a good time now because that there's no
Yeah.
rush. You
Exactly.
can still
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Up until now, it was kind of like, oh, we need to get it up quickly, and like, oh, I
Uh-huh.
don't need to get the best price kind of thing, and boom, they like people just submit their node provider proposals. So now you have time to really
Yeah.
like
Look
take your
into
time
it.
and
Yeah.
look into it and gets interested. I will say though, like naturally a queue will form up, and just from
Mhm.
the perspective of in terms of you as a node provider, you submit your proposals. If you're able to say, for instance, that your nodes will be running on renewable energy, for instance,
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
Mhm.
you'll be able to run it at like a low cost or something like that, or you plan
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
offset emissions, or anything to make yourself look more attractive as a
Unique.
node provider.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Uh.
At the end of the day, it's a voting, and if a queue forms
Yeah.
up, people will vote for the node provider that looks like kind of
Yeah.
deserves it in a way, or markets
Agree.
themselves well in this manner.
Mhm.
In this manner,
Mhm.
so if you can say, "Oh, I'm going to be a hands-on node provider. I plan to run everything myself. My nodes will run completely on renewables," then that's more likely to be voted in as opposed to somebody that's, let's say, is just, "Oh, I'm just
Yeah.
a regular node provider. I don't even plan to be involved in the IC. I just do it as an investment on the
Yeah.
side,"
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Mm.
Then there will be a preference, let's say, from the community, because
Yeah.
it's the community that votes which node providers
Mhm.
join. So I think that gives a kind of outline of yeah, next steps
Good point.
and what you can do now if you're interested.
Yeah. Agree. Good point.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think one of our community members actually commented on that, asking if you could be a node provider
Tagalog.
if you're not an IT graduate.
Louise,
So the answer is
Tagalog.
yes, right?
Yeah, the answer is siempre.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, syempre.
Wow. The Tagalog
But
flex. I love it.
but with a small caveat in that you will need to learn it.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
reason I say yes is
And the
because the
capital as
resources
well,
are.
knowledge and
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a big part. The capital as well.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we'll get into it later.
yeah.
The talks about the investment, but strictly from a skill standpoint, yes, there's
Mm.
stuff you need to learn. And but
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was lucky that I was a IT graduate, but even at that, my knowledge with hardware and networking was really just basic introductory courses
Yeah.
that did give me the foundation, but everything specific to the IC I had to learn, either learn by doing
Mm.
or you just kind of learn through reading the wiki and everything and discussions and
Yeah.
all of that. But
Mm-hmm.
needless to say, even if you're not an IT graduate, there are a lot of free resources out there. I
Mm.
think even on the wiki page of Dfinity, there's a link to the Cisco Certified Network Associate course. And that's
Mm.
free. You
Mm-hmm.
can find free preparation online courses to learn this.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're really interested in computer networks and eventually running nodes that you completely troubleshoot and manage yourself, it's completely feasible. It's just a question of how much effort are you willing to put into it? How much time do you have? But yes, completely feasible if you're not an IT graduate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Good
Well,
answer.
thank you for that. A very comprehensive answer, and I think that's a good step by step thing because it's
Yeah.
overwhelming if you like go about it. If you
Yeah.
attack it and list everything what
Mhm.
you have to do, but that step by step approach really helped. I think Sir Nelson is very interested. I saw him taking notes, so
Yeah. I got the
he
notes.
might.
Yeah.
Are you
Offline
gonna
with
be the
Louise.
first? Yeah.
We're
Are you gonna
hoping.
be
Yeah,
the
sure.
first known
We'll
provider here in the
see. It takes
Philippines?
time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll
Yeah.
see.
definitely. Yeah.
The biggest investment is, well, the capital is big, but I feel like the bigger investment is the knowledge itself because you can't go in blindly,
Yeah.
right? While
Yeah.
you said that you can learn along the way, you still have to have a, a good foundation
Yeah.
Yes.
of
And
Yes.
knowledge.
I
Yeah.
think I just want to add. Here's the thing. It's bound to happen. It's bound to happen that Southeast
Mm,
Asia countries will have nodes. I think
mm,
Mhm.
that's what we mentioned earlier, Luis. That you're focusing also on this region, and it's
Yes.
bound
mm.
to happen also for the Philippines. So anyway, we have our community. We have our hub. Hopefully, we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah,
Hmm.
indeed. And if I may offer practical advice, that there's this
Hmm.
ICP hub in the Philippines, and I was so excited to see this when I was in Belgium. But
Yeah.
for the interested or prospective node providers, it's a perfect opportunity to use it to kind of band together, because a node provider doesn't necessarily
Oh
mean one
yeah.
person. It can be
Yeah.
a
Mm,
team,
Yeah.
and that team, let's say you guys could either maybe there's already somebody on the very technical side you don't know,
Yeah.
like, is
mm,
already an IT graduate. Maybe this is the guy that, let's say, is taking care of when things
yeah.
go into operation and troubleshooting and everything like
Hmm.
that,
The
and somebody that
managing
is more.
partner. Correct.
Exactly. And maybe
Yeah.
there's somebody more business savvy, good with talking, good at negotiation. That
Mm,
Hmm.
person can be in charge of negotiating data center contracts and things like that.
Yeah.
So it can be a team that runs
such a
this
good
node.
idea. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not that you just need one person to provide the
Exactly. Yeah.
capital, provide the opex,
Mm,
do the management, everything like that. It's not that there's
yeah.
Yeah.
one person that has to do that. So you can use this ICP hub to as a networking opportunity to identify, can you build a like node provider team there in the Philippines? That's again,
Yeah. Exactly.
one
Nice.
piece of advice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Good point. Good point.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure. Now, let's jump right in with the other community questions. If you see any questions that you would like to answer or any interesting ones, feel free to
Yeah,
just read their names
sure.
and maybe the timestamp so we
Is
can
it?
show it on screen. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I see the comment section. Okay. Yeah, I see.
yeah.
Oh.
So while you're, it's a lot. It's
Yeah.
so hard
We have a
to
lot to
listen
Yeah.
to
question.
you and filter everything, but we're trying. So here's
Yeah,
one from EcoFinity21. Could you
yeah.
discuss any techniques you've developed for optimizing the performance of your blockchain-based solutions, considering varying performance metrics across different node providers? That was a mouthful.
Wow, yeah,
Mm,
that's
wow.
Yeah, a
even
big question, a
Uh,
Miss Universe question from EcoFinity21.
optimizing the performance of your blockchain-based
hmm.
solutions. I mean, to be clear, at least from Aviate Labs, we haven't built, or actually, no, we have built applications that run on the IC, but that's more internal proof of
Yeah.
concepts that we've done. In
Mm-hmm.
terms
Okay.
of the solution that we're providing to other node providers, this monitoring
Mm-hmm.
tool, this is completely based off the dashboard API. And you can say for now it's Web 2 based, just because there
Mm,
isn't a trivial or straightforward way to build
Yeah.
that on the IC. And if you do
yeah.
build a monitoring tool on the IC that's constantly making requests to an API, that will get really
Mm,
expensive as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm afraid I don't have much to answer for this question, just because it's not
I
mm,
directly
agree.
our forte. But on the side of
mm.
metrics, performance metrics across different
Yeah.
node providers, this again currently is something that is under development that I know at the foundation. Recently, in their global R&D, they shared the release of these trustworthy node metrics. And to make a
Yeah.
long story short, that's basically performance metrics of IC nodes served directly from the IC, and that's other
Mm-hmm.
nodes checking the performance of this one node. That's what makes it trustworthy. It's not the node itself reporting its statistics. So when this
Okay.
comes out, that
Mm,
will enable new possibilities in terms of analytics and actually analyzing the performance of these nodes. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a definite, like one of my most favorite developments to come out of the foundation, but that's purely biased coming from a hardware and node
Yeah.
side. But that's one of the really cool things that I've learned while being there.
I mean, we
Yeah.
Yeah.
appreciate the perspective and honesty in this.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I
Go
have a
ahead.
follow-up question. Is it possible that there's varying performance metrics from different node providers per country?
Varying. So in terms of, okay, speaking very practically, the current
Mm-hmm.
performance metrics we can just kind of give right now, and what's available to us is uptime.
Yeah.
Now
Mm,
it's
Time. Yeah.
possible that it's possible that it varies per country due
Mm-hmm.
to the availability of power, let's say. But
mm,
normally,
A good
and
point. Yep.
this is why these nodes, they are, yeah, expensive, but require a
yeah.
data center environment to operate in. Because normally when you're in a data center, regardless of
Yeah.
the stability of the grid outside of the country
Mm-hmm.
and what consumers regularly face, data centers have
Mm,
Yeah.
kind of what's it called, uninterrupted power supplies. So
Yep.
if the
mm,
primary generator,
Mm-hmm.
the primary source kicks off, a generator comes back in so that your nodes don't
Yeah.
experience any drop off.
Mm-hmm.
So in that
yeah.
sense, it becomes more data center related
Agree.
rather than country related. And maybe a
Agree.
personal
Mm, yeah.
anecdote from us is that across our three sites, we have one in Antwerp and one here in Brussels.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm,
here, the one I'm in now, our nodes, we've never seen them go offline. Whereas in Antwerp, that's where actually we've had the most records of interventions being done.
Oh.
Um,
mm,
so it's more, I'm not, and that's not me saying that the data center is not good or something like this.
Yeah.
Um, it could be purely our hardware too. But it's to
Yeah.
mm,
say that I would say if there's any variation, it's more on the data center side, because that's where your nodes reside. But
mm,
when you're in a data center, normally the service there, if you are at the right tier data center, then
Mm-hmm.
you can almost know that your performance will be somewhat the same across other
mm.
node providers in the industry.
Yeah. Agree. Good point. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good point. I think we have time for two more questions.
Mhm.
See any questions that you'd like to answer? How about you, Sir Nelson?
Oh,
Anything that
Oh,
you'd like to?
I think there's one question about security. Security, I think.
hmm
I'm not sure.
This one.
I'm not sure, but
Is it this one? In terms of security, what are the recommended protocols
is
and
there
best
is
practices?
there a risk in terms of being a data center being tampered with? But then again, it's consensus,
Mm,
it's global.
Mm.
Anyway, your
yeah.
thoughts on it?
Well, so I mean, in a multi-tenant environment, I assume that
Mhm.
is talking about being in a data center, in a co-location data center. I think
Mm.
data centers are very strict on this policy. I mean, even here,
Yeah,
I just wanted
yeah.
to request like a monitor and a
You,
keyboard because I needed it, and I had to
Yeah.
create like a request specifically for this.
you
I'm like,
cannot enter. Yeah.
Mm.
but same like if I'm not at liberty to show the facilities without permission first, but for instance
Mhm.
Mm.
entrance, it's everybody badges in, it's
Yeah.
one person
It's
in
that
at a
secure. Yeah.
time. You can't tailgate. There's cameras at
Mm.
the racks. Your
Yeah.
individual rack is code protected, or at this site it's with a key.
Hmm.
So if
Mm.
anybody were to break into your nodes, they would have to have been very motivated, and it would have
Yeah.
had to
Yeah.
be some kind of
Yeah.
Exactly.
mission
Yeah.
impossible operation. And if that's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
case, then that's
Yeah.
that's really something else. But normally there's no problems being in a co-location data center,
Yeah.
because yeah, the data center itself
Mm.
ensures that customers have that level of service that they pay
Mm.
for, and part of that is the security from it. At
Agree.
least from a protocol side,
Mm.
like in terms of the ICP protocol itself, that's not my expertise. Best is to ask people at Dfinity, or
Yeah.
engage in the
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
developer discussions on the
That,
forum.
yeah.
Yeah.
There they will talk about the security of the protocol, but at least from
Hmm.
the infrastructure side, um, we'll start to see more responsibility come to us, because that is one of my tasks here, is kind of configuring our remote management so we could kind of
Hmm.
manage our nodes remotely at
Mm.
home.
Hmm.
And so part of that will introduce new security challenges, but mainly in the sense of making sure our credentials to do this are, protected under some password manager. Passwords are
Mm.
secure. We regularly
Yeah.
change passwords or things like this. I would say it's more this from a security side, but from the protocol
Hmm.
side, yeah, that's
Preventive
that's really
measures.
given.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly,
Hmm.
exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Good. Good
We
point.
hope we answered your question
Yeah.
about security
Hmm.
as the ICP. And
Hmm.
then for the last one, sir, do you see anything
I'm
interesting?
looking.
There's a lot. It's so
There's a
hard.
lot.
Yeah.
So
So I
hard to
can't
pick.
remember.
Hmm.
Others. Hmm.
I see something about auditing that's interesting.
Yes.
Success
This
story, that's
one.
also,
Yes.
yes, the auditing and
All right.
verification
Hmm.
process that your
Mm-hmm.
platform
That's a
undergoes.
good point.
Um, so I assume this is from the side of when you say our platform, I guess you mean onboarding and verification to become a node provider for the IC.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, maybe I'll again share a visual. This is something we once made as part of our wiki. Let me just see if I
Okay.
can find it here. Mm, I'll just share my entire screen. Share screen. Oh, entire screen. Yes. Okay. Can you guys see the visual?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes. So this is a nice kind of roadmap. Let's say of
Mm-hmm.
overview, concise in one picture, the steps you have to go to become a node provider.
Mhm.
I mentioned that the first step one over here, is the gathering the quotes for data centers and ISPs. The number two is establishing a legal entity. Now, this is not
Mhm.
necessarily mandatory. It's not obligated. But it's
Mm-hmm.
more, as you can see from the dashboard, you don't see it's rare that you see people's direct names on there. They tend to go under,
Yeah.
Illusion
Yeah.
or some other name. And that's purely because
Mm-hmm.
if you're buying assets in the order of magnitude of hundred thousands of dollars of investment, you
Mhm.
don't want the risk to be completely on you, and you want to
Yeah.
separate that. So that's more a
Mhm.
recommendation, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of what's it called, auditing and verification, that's there. I want to kind of draw your attention to step 4 and step 5. Step 4 is your node provider self-declaration. And on the wiki, there's some documents that you have to present, but to give a summary, the self-declaration kind of, one, guarantees a good intent from you that you want to provide the service for the IC, but two, you kind of show the official record of your company's listing in the official registry in your country, and you know, also with your name as well. It be able to identify you as the entity behind these nodes. So as far as the network sees, it is this entity under this person. Now, naturally, you will see node providers work in teams, but the person that is on the self-declaration, that is like the responsible, let's say. So that's how it's done. This is published on the wiki. And when you go to step 5, the node provider onboarding, and the step right next to it, the registration, the node provider registration. When you submit the proposal, you submit a link to the self-declaration that is posted on the wiki. And there people can then check your proposal, see, okay, it's this company registered under this name, under this address. All looks pretty legit. Let's vote. I give my vote. It looks good to me. Vote yes. If there's people that don't include that, then the community, it's up to the community again. Okay, insufficient kind of identification or documents. No, I'm not voting for this node provider to become part of the network. So that's the voting of the individual, let's say the entity, the node provider entity. The next part is the data center registration. So actually, the next proposal you make is of the data center, and you kind of give an indication of what the company, what data center company it is. And also the actual coordinates of the data center, so that the community can verify, one, oh, is there too many nodes that are under the same kind of data center company? And actually, this was a problem for Solana somewhat recently. A lot of their nodes were running in Hetzner data centers, and Hetzner decided that, no blockchain-based stuff in our data centers, and boom, Solana experienced, they switched off or some downtime. But that's a really good example of stuff on the infrastructure side that can be easily overlooked, but is a source of centralization for your network. So
the impact that it has is it's wild.
Precisely. So that's exactly why it's important. That's the data center kind of company is voted in, let's say. And then of course the longitude and latitude is, people can actually verify, go there on Google Maps, does it look like a data center, or does it look like somebody is trying to run these nodes in their basement kind of thing.
These are things you don't really think about that much, but then when you point them out, it's like, that makes sense. You should also look into that.
Exactly. So all of this is voted in. So as far as auditing and verification, this is the steps when it comes to the onboarding. Can it be improved? Can there be extra steps? That's all open for discussion, and all open for discussion from the community. If you think there is something, feel free to submit a motion proposal or just start a conversation in the forums about this. But for now, this is kind of the auditing and verification that node providers go through when they want to become a node provider for the IC.
You are so good at laying out the step-by-step process that something so complicated, you make it seem so, it's still a lot, but it's easier to digest this way, and you get to appreciate why those certain steps are there and why we can't skip them. So such a insightful interview from you. And you mentioned that people can reach out to you, right? So maybe do you want to drop your socials? How can we connect with you?
So LinkedIn would be the preferred one, just because I've had that for longer. So just searching up Louise Velayo or Aviate Labs on LinkedIn. Definitely follow our page there, and feel free to connect with me there, and more than happy to chat. There is a Twitter available, but I will tell you that I created this Twitter like just a month or so ago. So
Yeah.
you'll see,
Uh, an
not too
ex
many
baby.
followers.
Yeah.
Exactly, but it would be great if the first followers come from ICP Hub
Yeah.
Philippines. So
Right?
definitely check
Yeah,
that out.
from the
True.
Philippines.
And
Guys, please
uh,
follow.
exactly, and a bit more established is our Twitter on Aviate Labs' Twitter as well,
Yeah.
and of
Mm-hmm.
course our website. So aviatelabs.co. So
Mhm.
that's
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
AVIATE Labs. Dot
Mhm.
co. That's our website, and
Yeah.
aviatelabs.co/node
Mhm.
monitor. This is the notification service that we have, and you're more than welcome to check it out if you're already running nodes somewhere in Southeast
Yeah,
Asia and want some kind of notification service. So
I agree.
that's uh, that's everything.
That's cool. I think we'll just add your socials in the description box. Maybe you can send
Yeah.
them so we
Definitely.
can include them. But in terms of like the website and Aviate Labs Twitter or X, we already
Mhm.
have them included for everyone in the
Okay.
community. Hope you guys can follow
Perfect.
them, be a part of their community, stay connected. And
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
finally, on a personal note, maybe can you give a final advice or share some lessons that you've learned being in the
Hmm.
industry, or people who want to um,
Yeah.
uh, like participate in this or learn more about it? Where do they start? How can they start?
Hmm. I think there in terms of that's kind of two parts. My advice and kind of how to get started.
Mhm.
Talking about the how to get started. There's so many resources out there. There's ICP Hub
Yeah.
Philippines. If you want to get into the industry,
Yeah.
go follow these guys.
I
Listen
love the
in,
plug.
and even yeah, like even if you haven't read a single bit about IC, and you sit in
Exactly.
one talk, you'll hear enough. And that kind of goes into my advice is like stick with something long enough, and sure enough,
Mhm.
like in this day and age, it's so easy to get distracted and move from here
Yeah.
to there, especially in
Yeah.
blockchain with all the different chains and stuff. It's really easy to get distracted. But if you stick with something and be in that ecosystem, that, like you said, 2 years, you're already considered an expert. So you
Mhm.
stick
Yeah.
with something for 2 years in this space, you'll also, definitely have enough
Yeah.
knowledge to be able to talk about it with other people.
Mhm.
And so yeah, there's many opportunities to get involved in the industry.
Mhm.
ICP Hub Philippines is one of them, and all the other online resources that are out there.
Yeah.
Take advantage of it. Like the internet is ubiquitous nowadays, and there's so many
Yeah.
resources out there.
Next.
Just go for it.
You have to
Um,
search.
exactly, like it's all a search
Mhm.
away.
Yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
I think the only other last piece of advice is that don't be afraid of the change or some risk. It's a bit cliche, but
Yeah.
the Web3 blockchain industry is about driving a new change in how we use the internet, how we
Mhm.
build applications. And
Mhm.
naturally, in the individual ecosystems themselves, there is a lot of change, and that's natural with tech. So
Yeah.
always be willing to learn,
Yeah.
always keep up to that. That's the best advice I can give.
Mhm.
And it's also, I think, the most practical. You can give pure
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
direct
Exactly.
suggestions about like, oh yeah, study
In
this.
life.
Inspirational. Uh-huh.
In life.
Yeah,
Correct.
more about just
Yeah.
just stick with something and be a lifelong learner, and you'll really get far in this industry and probably any
Yeah.
that you're in. So that's my main advice. And yeah.
Yeah.
Such a
One
great
one
advice.
last
Mhm.
one last lang, Luis. Shout out in
Yeah.
Tagalog. Kailangan ka mag-Tagalog sa
Ah,
ating mga viewers. Tagalog, shout out sa iyong kamag-anak. Baka meron kang gustong
Yeah.
mag-hi, hello sa mga iyong
gusto
kamag-anak.
mong
Yes.
batiin ang kamag-anak
Sure.
mo?
Batiin.
So,
Sa
well,
pinsan mong
unang-una yung
ikakasal.
Sa pinsan mo ikakasal.
ay, yung pinsan ko nasa UK po, so hindi naman siya nasa Pilipinas.
Okay.
Pero may
Ah,
may may pamilya ko diyan, si Ate Jam Jam, Kuya Dudoy, Ate Say, hello. And
hello.
Lola, miss you a lot in case you're watching this, but I don't think so.
Masyado technical.
And then
Hello sa pamilyang Velayo.
yeah, exactly. And yung mga magulang ko, I think they're watching the stream. So
Oh,
hello, but
hopefully.
nasa
Wow,
Hello.
Thailand po sila.
hello. That's awesome. You guys are
But
everywhere. But at least you guys
yeah,
are gonna see each other sa Boracay,
yes,
right? So
exactly.
that's exciting to look
My
forward to.
My sister,
Reunion.
it's actually one of our favorite movies. What's it called? Four Sisters and a Wedding, if you know this movie.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Uh,
Yeah. So it's
that's how you
kind
know
of
you're
like,
Filipino. Yeah.
yeah. So it's kind of this vibe that we're looking forward to sa November. It's
Yeah.
kind of like,
ah,
because my sister, she's in New Zealand, me and my
Hilarious.
brother in
Oo nga.
Brussels, my parents in Thailand, and like
Ang
pupunta
galing.
kami lahat sa Philippines to
Ah,
meet again. So
yeah.
For
it's
a
this kind of
wedding. Correct.
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
really it's really cool.
Galing,
Oh
galing.
yeah, for sure. And I think the advice, the answers you gave and the advice you gave are so practical and so insightful, and they all tie up to your
Mhm.
story, basically, of you being a student, taking that risk, learning until you're here,
Hmm.
like where you are
Exactly.
now, having this great position at Aviate Labs. So thank you so much for spending your
Yes.
time with us, and hopefully we get to meet you in real life, and maybe we can do a
Yeah.
real life episode
Yes,
together,
Yeah.
that would
right?
be
Like the
great.
three
November.
of
That would
us.
be
November.
great.
Uh-huh.
Definitely, definitely.
For sure. And we're gonna
Um,
force you to eat Filipino snacks, Filipino everything,
oh, you don't have
and
to
rate
force
them.
me.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
Oh yeah.
You don't have to force me. I'm missing that a lot.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Great.
Again, thank you so much. Looking
Yeah.
forward to meeting you in real life, and hopefully we get a follow up for this episode because we have
Yeah.
still so many questions that we weren't able
Yes.
to address. But
Yep.
yeah,
For
thank
sure.
you.
For sure.
Mhm.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you,
Maraming
and
maraming salamat.
Thank you
maraming
very much,
salamat. Have
Luis.
a good
Maraming
day,
Yeah.
salamat.
Luis.
Looking
Thank
forward
Thank
you.
November
you.
or something. Bye bye.
See
Yes,
you. See
indeed.
you.
Okay,
Thank
see
you.
you, see you.
Bye.
Bye
Bye.
bye. Nakakatuwa naman si Luis.
Ah,
May pa ano
marunong
siya,
pala
Tagalog.
mag-Tagalog.
Oo.
Dapat pala
True.
nag-Tagalog na lang
And
tayo.
oo nga eh, pero baka sumagot din siya ng Tagalog. Medyo ano,
Ah,
pero at least nagta-try siya, 'di ba? Nakakatuwa
tama,
naman.
yeah.
Yeah, and kahit ilang years na siyang wala, ano, nakapag-Tagalog pa rin siya, and parang gets
Yeah.
pa rin talaga niya yung culture natin. And
Yep, yep.
sobrang ano niya, generous niya with the questions, kung paano siya nag-start. Hopefully,
Yeah.
maraming na-inspire sa mga viewers natin, whether you're watching this live or replay man yan. Sana yung nagkaroon kayo ng idea regarding kung ano ba yung Aviate Labs, ano ba ang
Yeah.
mga nodes, no?
Nodes.
Node,
Yeah.
being a node provider and other opportunities na pwede natin explore. You know, we
Yep.
always talk about, being a developer, project manager, things like that. Pero ang dami talagang pwede pang i-explore within
Exactly.
ICP pa lang, no? So I truly
Mhm.
echo yung sinabi niya na pili ka muna ng lane mo, pili ka ng halimbawa kung blockchain yan, pili ka muna ng isa, and then stick
Mhm.
with that. Kasi
Yeah.
dun ka lang talaga makakita ng progress, 'no. So ayun, maraming salamat po. Binentahan sana natin ng banana Q. Eto talaga si
Hoy!
Ice Team,
Ice team, oh.
pagkakitaan talaga yung ano, eh, 'no,
Gold
mindset
provider
ba,
to sa
mindset?
Ice team.
Oo,
Mindset.
totoo. Ikaw sir, what was your, thoughts on the interview with Louise?
Yeah, very much interested with the nodes, and hopefully na magkaroon na
Hmm,
tayo ng node dito sa Philippines.
yes.
Eventually magkakaroon 'yan. It's just a matter of
A
time,
matter
no?
of when. Tama,
Oo,
tama.
when
Not an if, but
uh,
a when. Uh-huh.
yep, yep. And kailangan it's part of the decentralized world.
Mhm.
And
Natural
especially
progression dun na papunta 'no, sir?
yeah, yung global adoption,
Mhm.
dadaming gagamit,
Mhm.
so kailangan ng mas marami pang nodes. Ngayon, hindi pa kailangan. So, ayun nga yung sabi nila, di ba? Kumbaga, ngayon ka mag-prepare kasi hindi pa kailangan. Hindi ka naman pwede mag-prepare
Yeah.
na kailangan na, magmamadali ka, hindi ka abot. So,
Oo.
yeah, that's interesting, and hopefully, no, sa Philippines magkaroon na node soon.
Yes, for sure. And ayun nga, ang
Yeah.
ganda nga ng perspective na no. Now we have time to actually prepare kasi yung nagmamadali ka tas hilaw pa lahat, 'di ba? Kumbaga. So sir,
Yeah.
alam ko nabanggit mo na yung mga ilang upcoming events natin, pero baka you would like to invite them or talk more about what's in store. Medyo kahit konting pahapyaw lang. Pakurot lang na ano ng
Yeah.
thought process in these events.
This month, it's really going to be workshop sa universities, tsaka hackathons, no, na mangyayari this month. And most likely a few events that we can attend, but expect that
Mm.
it's going to be within the university, not publicly opened. It's going to be within selected universities, and if ever selected regions. But the idea there is really for us to scale, punta tayo doon kung saan yung nandun yung mga future developers natin, no? Future builders ng Web3, which is
Yeah.
mga students. So, yeah, hopefully
Sir,
we'll succeed. Magiging busy tayo.
yeah. Oh,
Go
yeah.
ahead.
Good kind of busy. No,
Yeah.
kahit na mapagod tayo sa mga ganitong months, as long as we're serving the purpose of, telling people about what ICP is and how we can
Yeah.
impact talaga, all for the love of it. Sabi ni Dan, government sana makita ICP. We are so glad that you mentioned that
We
kasi
are
we
working
are
on it.
partnering up with, we're cooking something. No,
Yeah.
we are so lucky na with Panimula 2024
Yep.
na may mga nakita tayo, may mga na-meet tayo na government entities na may support talaga, guys. No,
Yeah.
so alam ko yung mga nababalitaan natin ay yung mga ban, 'di ba, mga regulations, but I don't think that's necessarily negative. Part of the process 'yon, no? Parte 'yon. Part ang regulations dyan. And the government is taking notice, and hopefully we get to hear and create more positive notices, kumbaga, or positive strides with the government. No? But yeah, ICP Hub Philippines specifically, we are partnering up with them, and
Yeah.
kayo ang unang makakaalam kapag po nakahanda na
Yeah.
po ang lahat.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hopefully soon.
Ayan.
Hopefully next month. The soonest.
Yes.
We'll see.
So, alam niyo na guys, yung drill natin, please follow us on all of our social media accounts para updated kayo sa lahat ng ating events and of course sa mga live streams natin. Congratulations sa ating winners. Sir, napasobra ata ng
Nakalima ba
very
tayo?
light yung ano
Kung
natin.
sobra, okay lang.
Okay lang. Okay, good
Di naman nagkulang
problem.
na.
Yes,
Okay.
sobra pa po talaga, sir. So yeah, si Ecofinity 21, Karimaya 70, dalawa lang na save ko, sorry. Si Espeso, ayan. Si Ether ZICP and Newton Doc. Maraming salamat po for tuning in and for sending in such good questions. And we mean it when we say na we're so grateful that you are a part of this community. We are so early, you guys. So, if you know people na pwede magkaroon ng opportunity because of this, bawal ang gatekeeper 2024 na bawal ang madamot. So please share them, our community. Maraming salamat po, and we hope to see you next week. Dalawa,
Bye-bye.
hopefully, ang ating live stream.
Yep.
Yes. Maraming salamat, everyone. Have a great night. Thank you.
Bye-bye.